This episode of Best Bets is brought to you by BUSR, the official sportsbook of Matt O'Leary NY. Head on over to busr.com/Matt and receive a 150% free play bonus up to $2,500. First deposit only. Get in on the action at BUSR. Hello and welcome back to Best Bets. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary, joined as always by Newsday's NFL pick columnist Joe Manniello. Joe, how's it going?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So we closed out the regular season last week, a 2-4 week for me. So I finished 52, 54, and 2. You went 4-2 last week. Nice close in week 18 to finish 52, 52, and 4 through the regular season. And now on to the wild card and the playoffs. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, last week I thought I had a shot at 6-0, so I felt good about last week and a little batteries recharged for the playoffs. So should be a fun weekend.
Absolutely. So we're going to run through in order of these games. The first one on the slate is Seahawks and 49ers. The 49ers are pretty big favorites in this one, 9.5-point favorites. Too big a number, or do you like the 49ers this week?
Nah, I'm taking the Niners here. I'm happy it's 9.5 and not 10 or even 10.5, so I can see them winning by 10. I just don't see how you don't take the Niners here. They won both games during the season, 27-7 back in week 2, 21-13 in week 15. Seattle scored one offensive touchdown in both those games. Brock Purdy, 5-0 as a starter. The Niners have won 10 in a row. NFL's best defense. The number one is stopping the run, 77 yards per game. Second best team at stopping the run, Eagles, 120. So there's such a huge discrepancy between the next best run defense, and I just don't see Seattle doing enough. It's going to be one-dimensional with Geno if they fall behind early. And, divisional game, it's hard to beat a team twice in 1 year, let alone 3 times. I get it. But Seattle is lucky to get in, and I think the Niners this is a nice, easy win for them. I got them winning 31-13.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the Niners too, and that big number doesn't really scare me too much. They've been on an absolute roll. Even when, Purdy's taken over, they've put up 30 points, 33 against Miami, 35 against Tampa Bay. You had 37 against the Commanders, 37 again against the Raiders, and then last week, 38 against the Cardinals. I think this is another spot where they could put up a big number. Seattle's defense isn't really their strong suit, so I could see them putting up somewhere around 35 points, and I just don't think the Seahawks are going to be able to have enough offensively to keep pace against the league's best defense. They're incredibly hot right now. Seattle kind of limped into the playoffs. They got some much needed help to get in. I think this is a brutal spot for them. I know, as you said, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in the same year, but the 49ers are just absolutely rolling. I'm going to go 35-17. They take care of business here and move on. So next game after that is an interesting one. The Chargers and the Jaguars. They get the Saturday night game. Chargers are slight favorites, -2.5. Who do you like here?
Yeah, to me, this is the wildest. This is going to be the wildest game of the weekend. I think this is going to be, I have this game going to overtime, so I feel like it's going to be back and forth. Make sure you're around the TV around 11 o'clock Saturday night, because I think it's going to be a wild one. I'm going with the Jaguars here. I think the Chargers are probably the better team as far as roster and talent, but I think the Jaguars have a huge edge in coaching. I don't know what the Chargers were doing last week, playing starters for 3 quarters, almost the whole game, when they were locked into the 5 seed, and a couple players got hurt, key players, but I think they're going to play. But it just shows me that the Chargers, I don't know what's going on with the coach, but I don't know. Trevor Lawrence, he didn't play too well last week, and they still won the game. So kind of like him in a bounce back kind of performance. And I talk about it all the time. The Chargers, all they do is play close games. They play down to teams, and I just don't trust them to go in there as road favorites. I feel like no one's picking the Jaguars, or most people aren't picking the Jaguars. But I think they played really well. They won 5 in a row. They're only the 5th team in NFL history to have a 5-game winning streak and a 5-game losing streak and make the playoffs. So it's kind of cool. And I just have a feeling they're going to win this game. So I have it 30-27 overtime. Also, the Chargers, they've given up the most yards per carry for running backs. So I think it's like 5.42. That's the highest yards per carry since like 1959 or something like that. It's crazy. So I just think this defense, Travis Etienne could have a big game. I think Lawrence will. This will be his coming out party. I think they win a close game, like overtime, 30-27 Jaguars.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that this game is going to be, I think, a high-powered, back-and-forth kind of game, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. Both of these teams offensively have been incredibly, incredibly hot, and I agree. I don't necessarily love the Chargers coach, but I think Herbert obviously is regarded as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, hasn't really had that playoff experience yet. And I think he puts on a show against the Jaguars defense that really struggles. Now, obviously, Chargers defense isn't too great either. They're 21st in points allowed, so a little below average. But I like the Chargers in this one. I think they're the better team, like you said. Jacksonville got hot towards the end of the year. And, crazy on them for, winning these games in a row to get into the playoffs. A big win over the Tennessee Titans. But I didn't think they looked that great in that game. It was a tight one. And I think the Chargers offense is going to provide a much more difficult challenge. The last few weeks, the Jets, Texans, Titans, that's not really, three great offenses. So, good on them for getting in, but I think the Chargers take care of business. I'm going to say 30-24. They win by 6 points at the end.
Okay.
Let's move to the Dolphins and the Bills. The Bills are big time favorites in this one. 13.5 points the line's at. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah. What's up? It's up to 13 now?
13.5. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge spread, but I just don't see this game being close. Not much analysis on this one. If Tua Tagovailoa was playing, if he was playing, I could see it being closer. It was 32-29 that Saturday night game about a month ago. The Dolphins almost won that game. A great performance, but the Bills survived. I just don't see this game being close. Last week, I felt like the Bills kind of got those, emotion, the jitters out of the way with the first game since Damar Hamlin's, incident. And he might be in the building this week, so I think it's going to be a huge emotional lift from that. And even if he's not there, I just don't see the Dolphins being competitive. Skylar Thompson, rookie quarterback, he's not going to be up for the challenge here. And the Dolphins are my preseason Super Bowl pick. I'm just happy they made the playoffs. But I think it ends here. I don't think this is going to be close. I wrote 34-17, but that might even be too generous. But I'll stick with that score, Buffalo.
Okay, yeah, I think.
Josh Allen. I meant to mention he 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 600 yards passing in both games. And they probably should have won that first game in Miami. They just couldn't get in the end zone. So they've had their number. And I just think this is. I don't feel like really watching this game. I think it's going to be a blowout.
I'm with you. I think this one has blowout written all over it. I know 13.5 is a really big number, but I don't think Skylar Thompson's going to be able to do anything against this defense. He didn't look great in really any of the games that the two that he played against the Jets, and then when he came in relief against the Patriots, their offense couldn't do anything. The Bills, on the other hand, though, as you said, they kind of got that the jitters out of the way last week. The New England hung around for a little bit before they ended up pulling away. I think this one could get ugly, like 40-10, something like that. I think they just put up a ton of points. I don't see Miami being able to keep up anywhere close to this number. I think they're winning by 20 points pretty easily here this week. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Bills won last year. They beat the Patriots 47-17 in the wild card round. So I was thinking it might be the same kind of game, but I don't know. Maybe that's too high, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? As for the New York Giants and Minnesota Vikings, this is a rematch game, a really fun one, Joe. And I don't know about you. I like the Giants here. I'm going to take them +3 because I think they could win this game. I think they win this game outright. I really like their chances. And if not, I think worst case scenario, you're looking at a push. They almost got him last time. I love Brian Daboll. I think he's the coach of the year. And I think they should be able to run the ball against Minnesota. And I don't know, Kirk Cousins with the bright lights, it's a little bit different this time around. So I'm going to go with the Giants. How about you?
Oh, yeah, the Giants, you basically said what I was going to say. They're my best bet of the week was between them and the Bengals. But, I love the Giants this week. A Christmas Eve game. They needed a 61-yard field goal to win that game, the Vikings. They're 11-0 in one-score games. They also needed a block punt late to set up a touchdown. So they win these games with, they clutch plays and stuff like that. But, man, the Giants, to me, this is a great matchup for them. Like you said, they ran the ball well. Barkley had a nice game, 130 total yards and a touchdown. 133. Daniel Jones completed 30 passes. They had almost 450 yards of offense. So that Vikings defense allows the second most passing yards a game. It's a soft defense. I think the Giants going to be able to move the ball. And I like the idea of Brian Dable. I agree, Coach of the Year, with Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator. I like the idea they got a second shot at this team just a few weeks later. And I think the Giants might even be the better team. I mean, the Vikings are more talented. They got the best player on the field in Justin Jefferson, but Giants defense getting some players back, and also the Vikings are down their starting right tackle. So I think get after Cousins, and I think this is going to be a Giants win. I have a same score, but opposite, 27-24 Giants and a late Graham Gano field goal. But I wouldn't be surprised if they even win it without the dramatics. I like the Giants a lot this week.
Yeah, I do too. I didn't give a score. I'll go 23-17, a little bit lower scoring, but I think they take care of business this week. I really like them in this spot. As for the Bengals and the Ravens, the Bengals are kind of big favorites too, 8.5. Who do you like here? Do you like the Bengals?
Or that's up to 8.5 now? Wow.
Yeah. No, Lamar.
I guess it's Lamar Jackson definitely not going to play.
Yeah, exactly.
They ruled him out or no?
Yeah.
They have ruled him out.
Yeah, he's not going to play.
It was 6.5 before. I would have taken the Bengals even if Lamar Jackson was going to play, because he would have been rusty. He hasn't played in close to 2 months. But I like the Bengals a lot. I've talked about them for the last 2 months on our show. I think they on our segment. I think that they're kind of like under the radar. They've won 8 in a row. Everyone only talks about Kansas City or Buffalo, but Cincinnati, to me, they might be one of the most complete teams after the Eagles and Niners. And I just don't see how they're going to stop Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And they lost a couple guys in the offensive line, which is kind of scaring me. And Baltimore's defense is good, but I don't think they're good enough to make that big of a difference. And also, without Lamar, the Ravens offense, they've averaged around like 14, 15 points. Actually, I think it's more like 12 points since he's been down. And they might have to start the third string guy, Anthony Brown. So I just don't see them putting up enough points. So I think I had the same score as last week, 27-16, but it might even be lower than that without Lamar. So maybe 27-13. I just don't see this game being competitive in the third quarter, fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm with you, unfortunately. Ravens with the injury to Lamar limp to the finish line again. And Cincinnati, they're getting hot at the right time. In addition to them just, clicking, they've been great against the spread all year. Second best team in the league, 12-4. They cover 75% of the time. Yeah, that number is a little bit high, but it's not enough to scare me off because, as you said, the Ravens offense without Lamar is completely different. I don't think they're going to be able to score nearly enough to keep pace with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and that offense. And you were right. The Bengals, they have been great in the second half of this year, and they look like a team who could be primed to make another deep run here. I like them as well. I'm going to go 30-13. I think they take care of business this week. As for the final game, Monday night game to close us out here, it's the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. The Cowboys are slight favorites, -2.5, but Joe, I like the Bucs. I don't know if I could trust the Cowboys after how they've looked the last couple of weeks. Now, I don't love this Tampa Bay team either, but if my options are trusting Tom Brady in a big spot or the Dallas Cowboys who've just find ways to choke these games away, I'm going to take the Bucs every single time. I think it's going to be a sloppy one, maybe 20-17, a late win, maybe a little bit of a Tom Brady comeback at the end for them to win this game. But I'm going to take the Bucs here +2.5.
Yeah, this is the most difficult game of the week for me to pick, and it's funny because I tweeted I think it was November or even early December, this is basically like a lock. This matchup with the Eagles were so far ahead. You knew the Cowboys were going to get the 5 seed, and you knew the Bucs would probably win the awful NFC South. So we kind of knew this matchup would be the case since Thanksgiving, and I still have trouble picking it. I mean, I feel like you touched on it. The Cowboys, they've been the better team all year. I mean, they played well. They had some really bad games, but they played well. And the Bucs have just been a disappointment, underachieving team. But I'm going with the Bucs as well. I don't trust the Cowboys, and Tom Brady's never lost to Dallas, 7-0. And last week during the Sunday night telecast, former Cowboys coach Jason Garrett had a nice little juicy nugget that I liked. Cowboys are 1-4 on grass this season. And he said that could possibly hurt, Michael Parsons in the pass rush getting to Brady. And Brady's just unbelievable getting the ball out so quick. And they're getting healthier on the offensive line, which has been their Achilles heel all year, and at receiver. And the Cowboys struggle. Secondary is probably the weakest link. So I just think, I agree. This is a Brady game. I have a 24-23. I think it's going to be a really close game. I like that Monday night. It's probably the most fun matchup if you look at it big picture-wise, America's team, America's quarterback kind of thing. And I just think that Brady has another one in him, and then go get crushed at San Francisco next week.
There we go. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. So that's kind of a good segue, because when we do these the first round of the playoffs, usually we do our predictions the rest of the way. So why don't you get us rolling here on what you like the rest of the way in the playoffs?
All right, so we'll go right into the NFC divisional round. So I just touched on it. San Francisco against Tampa Bay. I think San Francisco will win that game. They beat them earlier this year, I think 35-7. It'll be closer, obviously, but I don't see Tampa Bay winning that game. And then the other game, I have the Giants beating the Vikings. So the Giants will go to Philadelphia, which would be an interesting matchup. I think the Giants would play in tough, but I like Jalen Hurts and the Eagles to roll. So then it'll be NFC Championship game would be Eagles-Niners. I actually picked this before the year. I had the Eagles. Eagles were my NFC pick, and on the spot, I had to pick up another team, so I wasn't fully prepared. I just said Niners, but it worked out well. If they won, I would not be shocked, but I just don't know if Brock Purdy's going to win that game. At Philly, it could be really cold, and the Eagles are a different team with Jalen Hurts, and the extra week I think will really help them. So I think the Eagles get to the Super Bowl. And as far as the AFC, the divisional round, I got Jacksonville at Kansas City. I think that'll be a close game, but I don't see Jacksonville going in there and beating Kansas City, so Kansas City advances to the title game, which would either be at a neutral site if Buffalo advances, or at home if Cincinnati advances. So for me, Buffalo-Cincinnati is the toughest one to predict, even though it might not even happen. Who knows? But it's just it's going to happen. But yeah. Buffalo-Cincinnati, and that's a game that was canceled, so it's kind of poetic justice in a way that they're going to play it, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but the right term. But it's nice that they're going to actually get to play. But I've been on Cincinnati the last 2 months. I don't know something about Joe Burrow and his offense, and the way they find ways to win, and them owning Kansas City. I think they're going to beat Buffalo. And everyone loves Buffalo, and I kind of want to pick them because it's just a great story. And if they win a Super Bowl this year, after everything they've gone through, it would be amazing. But I'm going with Cincinnati, and that sets up a repeat of last year's title game. Bengals at Kansas City. They own Kansas City. They won 3. Burrow is 3-0 against Mahomes. I beat them this year. They won last year. I think they're even better than last year's Super Bowl team, Cincinnati, and they won't. Most teams probably be a little scared to go play at Arrowhead, but I don't think the Bengals would be. All the pressure would be on Kansas City, losing back-to-back title games. And Kansas City, to me, as great as Mahomes is, Andy Reid has a history of not winning these games, coming up short, and they don't really have a running game. And I'm not sure the defense is that great. I think Cincinnati is one of the most balanced teams. So I like Cincinnati getting to the Super Bowl. Cincinnati against Philadelphia, I think it'd be a great game. But I'm going to go with Joe Burrow getting his ring after last year just missing against the Rams. So Cincinnati over Philadelphia, 30-27 in Super Bowl 57.
I love it. There we go. So for me, I'm going to go, I'll start with the NFC like you did as well. I have this week in the wild card round, the Giants advancing, as well as the 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that would set up a matchup of the Eagles against the Giants. Giants have been a great story. I think it's fun that they're going to win a playoff game this year, at least in my opinion, but I don't think they have enough firepower yet against the Philadelphia Eagles to take them down. I think the extra rest is going to help the Eagles. Sometimes you see teams come out flat after getting, the bye week, but the Eagles kind of need to get healthy a little bit, so I think it's going to give them more of an advantage in that department. And as for the 49ers and the Bucks, I just think the 49ers, they steamroll the Bucks. I have no faith in Tampa Bay being able to go on the road and beat that team. I don't trust Todd Bowles in that spot. I think Shanahan's one of the best coaches in the league. So that would set up a really fun matchup in the NFC Championship game, same as you, 49ers, Eagles, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take the 49ers here. I know Brock Purdy isn't necessarily the guy you think of a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but he's been getting the job done. He's been doing just enough. They're not asking him to throw the ball a lot. I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit against the Eagles, and their defense is so good. I think they'll be able to contain Philadelphia and win a really close, fun game, something like 23-20, maybe a little bit on the lower scoring side. As for the AFC, so I have the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chargers advancing from there. So that would set up a Chiefs and Chargers first round or divisional round matchup. I don't like the Chargers going on the road to take on the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have been surprising in a way because a lot of people thought they'd take a step back after losing Tyreek Hill, but Patrick Mahomes has just been unbelievable this year. He's in the MVP conversation. I don't know if they have enough to win a Super Bowl. More on that in a little bit, but I think they have enough to at least get past the Chargers in what would be, I think, a favorable matchup against that defense. Bills, Bengals is a really, really tough one for me to pick. Bengals are hot right now. Bills have a great story and are just a really, deep football team. I'm going to take the Bills. I think they win the game. A close one, back and forth kind of game, but they win a high-scoring one. And an emotional win for them over the Bengals, which would set up a Bills-Chiefs rematch, a great game from last year in the playoffs. They played once already during the regular season, and I think the Bills would win that game again. I really like Buffalo. It would be a great story. And then number two, I think they are the perfect kind of team to play the Chiefs. They have a good enough defense where they could contain Patrick Mahomes, but they also have the firepower where they can go toe-to-toe offensively with him. Setting up a Buffalo Bills against San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl. And I think the Bills finished their fairy tale story. They felt like a team on a mission ever since they lost last year in that divisional round matchup that they played against the Chiefs. A great game. And now this year, everything they've gone through, I think it'd be a great story. I'm buying into the story. I'm going to go Bills over 49ers in a 27-20 win.
All right. Bengals, Eagles, Bills, Niners.
There we go. So to run through our wild card picks one more time real quick, 49ers, Seahawks, both Joe and I are on the 49ers. Chargers and Jaguars. This is the only game where we differ. Jaguars plus 2.5. I'm on the Chargers minus 2.5 myself. Dolphins, Bills, both taking Bills minus 13.5, the big number. We both like the Giants plus 3 against the Vikings. Both like the Bengals to roll over the Baltimore Ravens minus 8.5. And then Cowboys, Bucks, the last game of the week, Bucks plus 2.5. Joe, thank you so much for joining me as always, and good luck this week.
Matt, great job. Thank you.